Good evening. Yes, I'll admit I'm a little surprised. It's been a very long time since you've been awake before me. When you were younger, you would always be up before sunset. I remember too many times when you'd try and wake me up, not realizing what would happen if I stepped into the light. Now, though, I'm lucky to see you before I leave for the night. Were you able to see the sunset? How was it? Was it nice? Good. I'm glad. Now, did you get something to eat? No. Are we all out of food? I wasn't planning on going into town tonight. No matter how many times I go to get groceries, I don't believe I'll ever do it with enjoyment. But I'm certainly not about to let you go hungry. Is there anything in particular that you'd like? Oh, you're just not hungry. Is there any reason why? You're not sick, are you? You feel fine? Oh, that's good to hear. But let me feel your forehead. That's quite warm, much warmer than usual. And you do look rather pale. I must have brought something home with me. Hopefully, it doesn't get too serious. Do you feel tired at all? A little? Alright, well, then, why don't we get you back to bed? How does that feel? Are you comfortable? You feel hot? You poor thing. I know, it feels hot, but you should keep the covers on if you want to get well. I'm sorry that I have to leave you tonight, but I do need to feed. But I promise I will go into the town and get anything you need. I'm not the most prepared for this sort of thing. After all, you've never been sick once over the years that you've been here. I know you don't remember much from before, but can you think of anything you might have been given when you weren't feeling well in the past? No? Don't worry. That's alright. I'll find what we need. Hmm? Oh, my apologies if I seemed a little distant. I've just been thinking. About what? You don't need to get yourself worked up over that now. We can discuss it later. Well, if you insist on knowing, the truth is, I need to ask you a question before I proceed. Now, it is very important that you're honest with me, okay? When I've been out, you haven't been wandering around outside, have you? Of course you haven't. I knew you wouldn't. You've always been such a well-behaved child. For a supposedly cursed creature, I've been quite blessed to look after you. The only explanation is that I picked up a virus of some sort from another human. I have no grievances with humans, but they're not known for being devoid of those sort of things. Well, I should be off, but I'll be back as soon as I can, I promise. What's that? No, no. You cannot come with me. Try and get some sleep and... I really don't think it would be a good idea if you came with me when you were better either. No. Why is it that you want to join me all of a sudden? You used to ask if you could come with me, but that was only when you were young and before you got used to living here. But it's been a very long time since then. You're just curious. About what? Out, out there. Is, is that why you were up so early today? to watch the sunset. I see. And I understand. This house is quite large and has so much inside of it to occupy oneself with. But I imagine it would become stale after a certain period of time. I do wish I could take you out into the world. Why can't I? Perhaps we should save that story for another time. You're right. You deserve an explanation. I can't expect you to stay in here forever with no reasoning. No, that didn't take much convincing, did it? I have always wanted to tell you this for a long time. I just didn't know how or when. But most importantly, I didn't want to scare you. But I've always known it would have been said someday. How should I start? You see, the woods we're in, they're desolate, remote, and seemingly untouched by humans. They've been this way for a very long time, and it isn't without cause. For whatever reason, is beyond me. Others that are like myself also live here. Not in this house, of course, or the immediate area, but they are here. And that is why I've always wanted you to stay indoors at night, which thankfully you have always done. Why is it so important? Well, the others, they're not like me. Well, they are, in the sense that they're vampires, but they're different. How? That's part of what I need to tell you as well. I wasn't always this way. I wasn't always a vampire. At one time, I was human. Then, I wasn't. I know. That doesn't explain very much. But I suppose it's just not an easy topic to discuss. Or a pleasant one. If you would rather rest, please say so, and we can talk about this later. I'm sure you're quite tired. No? Right then, I'll continue. Vampires. Vampires. Vampires have heightened senses. They can hear and smell from a greater distance than humans. That's how I found you all those years ago. And all vampires need one thing to survive: human blood. Maybe that's what pushes the senses to new limits. The insatiable pursuit of blood that the beast inside demands. It's something none can ignore, even though some may try. You could be walking on a peaceful night, just in your own backyard, with not a care in the world. It could be just like any other night, one that you've experienced countless times before. And then, without a moment's notice, one of us could pounce and drain you, all your blood, leaving you there until you become one of us. It's a terrible experience, one that I'll never forget, although I'd like to. It can't be undone or erased, and I would never wish it on anyone. I could never take from someone else what was taken from me. Which is why, when I go out at night, I only take as much from one person as I can, leaving enough for them to live, and I repeat the process until I get enough to sustain me It is somewhat tedious, but I have retained the self-control to do it. Somehow, I've been able to keep my humanity intact and keep the beasts at bay. The others are not so fortunate. If you step outside under the cover of darkness, they will know, and they will not waste any time in finding their sustenance. Whether they were born human or vampire, their desire consumes them, and they will harm anyone who can quench their thirst. We all have that same compulsion, including me. There. Now you know. You've always known about what happened to me? Oh, just the blood. Well, I assumed you were aware of that much, but not the rest of it. I thought you'd be scared, knowing what I could do, knowing what I could do to you. The process of taking someone else's blood and the potential side effects is terrifying. It's cruel, demented even. I have the ability to hurt you, and that scares me. But it doesn't bother you at all. I know. I said I never would, nor do I ever intend to. I can't bear the thought of it. But what if you trust me? You're very sweet. I should put as much faith in myself as you do. It's difficult to sometimes, but I think I can accomplish that. I'll start now, after all I just said, about how the desire for blood is impossible to ignore. The more you ignore it, the more it screams at you. Eventually, until it remains the only thing left in your mind. I promise to you that I will never succumb to it. The need for blood will never overcome my will to keep you safe. You already know? I seem to recall a moment like this a long time ago, except it was me hugging you, and you were a lot smaller. Now then, why don't you lie down and try to get some sleep? I'll be back before morning with some medicine. Sleep well, my child.